I love answering your questions. Let's get started. Ask Dr. Oz. Who's first? Come on.
My name is Jessie. I have this wart here, and it just came out about a year or two,
Perfect.
and it seems to be getting bigger.
Here's the deal with warts. If it gets close to the tendon, the joint above and below, or the tendon underneath, then I would get more aggressive taking it out. Warts, as you know, are caused by viruses.
Right.
And these viruses come and go. Your body will one day wake up and realize that wart is there and kill it.
Because I've tried the patches. I tried that freezing thing.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, what I personally have found successful with is taking tape that's obstructive, like electrical tape or packaging tape, but you got to leave it on for a week.
But what about when you wash your hands and
Well, that's the problem. It's in a bad spot for you. But you can suffocate it. But listen, if it's really bothering you or not, you can correct that out. We can literally shave it out.
Yeah, I tried peeling the whole thing off.
Not you.
Oh.
No, this is like I have to do this to you.
Oh, okay.
Because there are little roots, tentacles that go deep under the skin, and we have to cut them out also. Otherwise, it comes back. And you can't.
I use the tweezer.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do that there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Oz. My name is Kathy, and my question is it normal for you to itch after you have a surgical procedure after 2 years?
Not after 2 years. It's very common early after surgery because itching is a form of pain. So more severe versions of it, if the nerve is entrapped, for example, will give you pain. But if it's a subtle irritation, pushing, tugging on the nerve, you'll get itching. If you have itching for more than 2 years, it's often because you still are having some type of nerve entrapment in there. There are things we can do, inject it locally. Is it stomach surgery or?
No, breast reduction.
Yeah, I would actually make sure first that there's no subtle infection happening there. It can be very subtle, so not always obvious to you.
Okay.
And then if that's the case, there are things we can do to sometimes numb up that area.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Researchers at Georgia Tech have come up with a way to give robots the sense of touch using artificial skin. The idea is to take robots out of their traditional roles in factories and manufacturing and make them more suitable for physical human interaction.
Biological organisms, animals, insects, they have tactile sensing over their whole bodies. Their entire body is sensitive to touch. And robots haven't had that capability. So one of the first things we need to give robots the sensor, not just eyes, not just ears, but skin.
The skin is currently being tested on a robotic arm. It uses a series of sensors that send information back to a computer program, which then maps out the environment that the arm is in. That way, the robot can adjust the amount of pressure it uses when it comes in contact with objects or people.
It makes predictions about what will happen if I move this way, what will happen if I move this way. And then, based on some clever mathematics, it says, this is the best thing I can do to move close to my goal while keeping the forces low.
It's being tested with the help of a California man, Henry Evans, who was left quadriplegic after a stroke. The touch-sensitive robot can interact with him safely and help him with daily tasks. While there's still plenty of research left to do, the skin's creators believe it will one day dramatically improve the lives of people with severe disabilities. Nick Dietz, CBS News.
While there's no cure yet for this disease, there are steps to take to slow its progression. Hi, I'm Rebecca Brayton and welcome to WatchMojo.com. And today we'll be learning more about the progression and treatments of Alzheimer's from the Alzheimer's Society of Montreal. How does Alzheimer's affect a person suffering from it and his or her family?
The impact of Alzheimer's disease for the patient is usually in the early stage when you still realize what's happening to you. Fortunately, for the patient, many of them don't realize what's happening. It's called anosognosia, lack of awareness or lack of insight. In a way, it's merciful for them, because those who have too much insight, it is really, really anxiogenic. For the family, the burden actually increases over time in the moderate to severe stage, because the one you love now you have to take care of as a child, and all the souvenirs of your past life slowly get erased to the point where the spouse doesn't know who the other person is, and they don't recognize the house they live in.
What about treatment?
The current treatment of Alzheimer's disease involves a good diagnosis, education to the patient and family. This requires, of course, the Alzheimer's Society and other community support groups. Treatment of depression when present, both for the patient and the caregiver. And there are specific drugs available as regular prescriptions that improve your brain ability to focus. So we call them memory medicines, but they actually do more than that. They help stabilize progression even of behavioral symptoms.
What kind of progress has been made recently in terms of understanding this illness?
We had high hopes over the past 5 years that preventing the buildup of amyloid in the brain could stop progression of symptoms in people who already have mild Alzheimer's type dementia. It didn't work so far. So either we treat these patients too late, maybe we should aim for a milder stage of the Alzheimer's disease, or we're aiming at the wrong target. That is, amyloid is not the main cause of symptoms. So the strategies are shifting now worldwide to treating earlier with these drugs, or to start thinking of alternative hypotheses. What else besides amyloid is important, such as a change in the cell structure called tau, the internal skeleton of the cell, or maybe trying to find a way for the brain to heal itself with some natural growth factors.
On average, how long does Alzheimer's last?
If you start at the early dementia stage, Alzheimer's disease usually run a course over 8 to 12 years. In older people, it's usually other conditions that will end life, such as a fall and injury or pneumonia. In younger people, before age 60, Alzheimer's disease can be more malignant.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
I'm Barbara Favola. I'm chair of the Arlington County Board, and I'm a breast cancer survivor. In the summer of 2008, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was detected through a mammogram. I have been cancer-free for a year. Breast cancer now is not the doom and gloom diagnosis it used to be. Over 70% of breast cancer cases are first identified by women themselves doing self-examinations. More than 90% of breast cancer patients live at least 5 years or longer. Women can take charge of their health by doing their own self-examination, and if you catch it early, your prognosis for a healthy outcome is just so much greater. I hope you hear this message, I hope you act on this message, and I hope you give yourself a long, healthy life.
Do you toss and turn all night and then feel exhausted every morning? Well, millions of Americans need a wake-up call when it comes to sleep. It's time to reveal 4 shocking reasons you're not sleeping well. And with me is my good friend, Reader's Digest Editor-in-Chief, Liz Vaccarello. You know, there's so many reasons that people don't sleep well.
Yeah.
And it can be things that are happening in the bedroom, things before the bedroom. But one surprising one is actually your loved one, your partner. When your partner's pain, for instance, if they have arthritis, is increased, you're actually not going to sleep as well, and it kind of makes sense. If your partner's not sleeping well and they're in pain, it could absolutely affect your sleep.
And they even said that the closer the partners are emotionally, the more they feel each other's pain.
Isn't it fascinating?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I love that. So the next reason, this blew my mind, a full moon. So studies have shown that for the 4 days before until the 4 days after a full moon, you have diminished sleep quality. And you sleep on average about 20 minutes less, and you have about a third less deep sleep. So there's not a lot you can necessarily do about it, but if you know that this affects you, you can kind of plan your days accordingly.
Okay, the third one, this shouldn't be surprising, medications that you're taking, because we all know medications have side effects, right? Well, one of them, and many medications, can be insomnia. So if you're having trouble sleeping after starting a new medication, ask your doc if maybe you can take it in the morning, where that insomnia effect may not be as profound at night.
So this one I love. Your pillow might be too hot. So I do this. I'm always turning the pillow over to the cold side, but it turns out that there's a biological reason. When your head is exposed to something that's cooler, it lowers your entire body temperature, and that makes falling asleep easier and staying asleep easier as well.
Point is that it matters. The ambient temperature in your room, the temperature of your pillow, it has such a profound effect.
They say that the optimum temperature is between 64 and 68 degrees in your room, and that's kind of where I keep it.
Liz, always a pleasure.
Hi, I'm Jason, and that's my big brother, Andrew, with our friends from camp, Caleb and Enrique. The four of us love to play sports. We also have something else in common. We all have hemophilia, a condition where we get painful bleeds in our muscles and joints that don't stop without special treatment. That's why our doctors tell us not to play any contact sports, like football, wrestling, or hockey. Our moms would like to keep us covered in bubble wrap. But we're not made of glass. We're kids. We need to move and play like other kids. We just need to think carefully about what sports we can and can't play. My brother, Andrew, didn't. He tried to play hockey and got a bleed in his groin. He had to use crutches to get around, but that caused another bleed, so he was put on bed rest. Andrew missed a lot of school and got pretty far behind. The nurse at our hemophilia treatment center suggested he switch to a safer sport, so he took up golf, and he got really good. He's the best golfer on his high school team. Caleb loved football. Of course, his parents didn't want him anywhere near a football field, but Caleb didn't want to just sit on the sidelines. He talked to the coach, who let him be a place kicker. With 2 guys on each side to protect him, he kicked 2 seasons. In high school, Caleb stopped kicking and became an assistant manager. He plans to go to college and major in sports management. Enrique and I both tried a lot of different sports, like t-ball, baseball, and basketball. Our parents made sure we infused before we played, but when we moved from middle to high school, the sports got rougher. Enrique tried wrestling, but after his first match, got an elbow bleed. He ignored it and didn't infuse. The next day, he couldn't even move his arm. Enrique quit wrestling and took up guitar. I just know he's going to be a rock star someday. Me? I was pretty good at soccer and could have played in high school, but switched across country because Dad said it's smarter. What I found I really enjoyed was competitive swimming. I love to race, and I'm pretty fast. I currently hold the state record for the freestyle. My goal is to go to the Olympics, just like Michael Phelps. No matter whether we have mild, moderate, or severe hemophilia, there's a sport out there for kids like us. We just need to be smart about the sport we choose. Carefully consider your options. Discuss your decision with your doctor and your parents. Then, make sure you're prepared to play it safe. For more information, see the following.
I'm Judy Greer and this is Carrie Peters, and today we are going to talk about gluten. A lot of people I know you may want to lose the last 5 pounds, the last 10 pounds, and you might be thinking, what is this gluten-free thing? Do I need to do that?
And it's this crazy phenomenon. It seems like it's like taking over.
A lot of people really actually do have celiac disease, and that is a full-on gluten intolerance where
My dad has it.
Oh, does he? Really?
Diagnosed and everything.
If someone has celiac disease, the gluten starts to destroy the lining of the small intestines. So the lining of the small intestines, if you think about a towel, you know how a towel has like little threads? The fingers? Well, so the gluten mows down the fingers in someone who has celiac disease. And then what happens is the lining of your stomach starts to get permeable. And things pass through that shouldn't pass through. So you can get really sick like your dad did with celiac disease. Even if you don't have a sensitivity, even if you don't have celiac disease, gluten can cause in some people inflammation. And it causes all sorts of problems, including hanging on to extra weight. So it might be a good idea to try an experiment. Just take 7 days and go off gluten.
Can you tell in 7 days?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
If it is causing inflammation for you, or if you do have a sensitivity, for sure you're going to notice in 7 days. If you're going to take this sort of experiment, think about your plate divided in thirds. 1/3 is like a healthy protein, like eggs or turkey or chicken. Then another third would be green vegetables. And then the other third of your plate, there'd be starchy carbohydrates or whole grains, but things that are not gluten. So like rice, quinoa, buckwheat, amaranth, millet. You could have any kind of bean.
Do oats have gluten in them?
So that is a great question. Technically, oats do not have gluten in them.
Great question asker.
So oats do not technically have gluten. However, the way that they're manufactured, they're often manufactured with other grains that do have gluten, and so there's something that happens called cross-contamination, meaning they get gluten on them. However, you can Google gluten-free grains, and there are definitely companies that make those, and you can order them on the internet. And actually, I've seen gluten-free oats available in health food stores too.
Even my regular supermarket has like everything's gluten-free now there.
Yeah, there's so many gluten-free options in stores now, like gluten-free breads and gluten-free cookies and scones and muffins.
Those ones you bought me for my wedding present.
Oh my gosh,
those are so good.
They're so good.
I also noticed for me, just the way my body is, I have like a tummy, like some girls just have flat stomachs. I'm not one of those girls. But when I don't eat gluten, my stomach is more normal.
If you have a complaint, if you have weight to lose, if your stomach hurts, if you have IBS, if you feel bloated, try it. Try it for 7 days.
I challenge you all. 7 days, gluten-free. Carrie, thank you so much. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next week. Apparently, everyone's doing it.
Is that right?
And the corn diet.
The corn diet?
Yeah, I heard that supermodels just eat cans of corn all the time.
What?
Magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI, uses strong magnetic fields and radio waves to produce cross-sectional images of the body that are very detailed. These images are essential in detecting and diagnosing many medical conditions, and also in checking on how a patient's treatment is progressing. At FDA, medical physicists, computer engineers, and mathematicians help to make sure that MRI devices are safe and effective.
Here's an email that recently hit the Money Watch inbox. I'm 68 years old with a master's degree in social work. Due to a family emergency, I've spent all my savings. Now all I have is my Social Security check, which just covers my mortgage. What type of income options are there for me? Is investment property a good way to go at this time? Betty, 2 solutions immediately come to mind for you. You could go back to work or generate income by renting a room in your house. But let's dig into this a little deeper. If you're paying a mortgage and asking about investment property, I'm guessing you may be house rich and cash poor. If you have substantial equity in your home and a small remaining mortgage, you have a couple of other options. A reverse mortgage may be suitable for you. Basically, this is a loan against the equity in your house. You receive that equity tax-free in a lump sum or in monthly payments. When your house is sold, the proceeds go to repay the loan. Now, you'll pay some hefty fees to take out a reverse mortgage. And if you fall behind on insurance or real estate taxes, you could be foreclosed on, so know exactly what you're agreeing to before you go this route. You could also consider a cash-out refinance. Here you refinance your mortgage for more than you currently owe and pocket the difference. You could then take that money and buy an investment property. Now this doesn't make sense if you have to refinance at a higher interest rate than your current loan. But with today's rock-bottom interest rates, that's probably not an issue for you. Now finally, don't forget that if you're worried about your monthly income, you could also trim your expenses.